Welcome to Life Rebounding. We're continuing to look at identity statements as they're written in Paul's letter to the Ephesians in the first chapter in particular. And we want to look at the identity statement today that we were graced to glorify, or we are graced to glorify. And that's based on verse 6 where Paul writes, "To the praise of his glorious grace, which he's freely given us in the one he loves." John Piper, in his book, Let the Nations Be Glad, says this about worshipers. He says that until there's no one left on the planet who is not a worshiper of God, the purpose of the church is to continually seek to reach out and help those people become worshipers of the living God as he's been revealed in Jesus Christ. Well, there's something about that in this verse, I think, where Paul reminds us that to the praise of his glorious grace, which he's freely given us in the one he loves. And that is simply as this, that grace receivers become praise givers. Grace receivers become praise givers because inevitably, as we receive grace from God and we find that our lives are transformed, as we find changes happening in our lives whereby we grow more and more into the image of Christ, our Savior, but even more so as we become better people, as we grow in maturity in our walk of faith. We become people who are able to take our eyes off of ourselves and give thanks and praise for the grace that we've received. You've often heard it said, "There, but for the grace of God go I," in reference to seeing somebody else going through difficult circumstances. Well, that's a reminder to us that we have been graced. We have been given gifts by God that change our lives, that transform them. And once you have been a grace receiver, it's hard not to be a worshiper. It's hard not to give praise and glory back to God for the changes that have happened in our lives, for the things that he's done for us. And so what Paul's statement is reminding us is that those who've been the recipients of God's glorious grace become grace extenders so that we can give praise to the one who's bestowed it upon us. We are graced to glorify. It's the most natural response in the world to worship when we have received the grace of God, to sing our love songs to the one who loves us, to invite others to join in the melody, and to invite others to join also in lifting up their praise to the one who has freely loved. Jesus once said, "Freely you've received, freely give." And I think that especially applies to the grace that we've received. When we have received grace from God for ourselves, grace that we don't deserve, it becomes a little bit easier, I think, to be able to extend grace to others. And what that means then is that we exercise just a little less harsh judgment on people, and we extend a little bit more grace, remembering that there, but for the grace of God go I, as we seek to be gentle influences in the lives of people, non-condemning and accepting, so that people know that they are loved by the Father and by the Son. Well, may you today join in the love song. That is the melody of God's people who have been grace endowed, who have received God's gracious gift